Feeling good, feeling great, feeling good. How are you? Welcome into Timeline T. I am your host, the Sam D, aka Sam Dugan Jr. Thursday, one more day to the weekend. For me, Friday begins the weekend. Because, weekend Eve, I don't believe in it. It's the weekend. Friday means it's the weekend. So today is really weekend Eve, if you really want to keep it a buck. But anyway, we got a lot going on today. That is no misspelling in the topic bar. I know some of y'all might think that's supposed to be a J, but it is indeed an H. It is not Jimmy Butler. It is Hemi Butler after last night. Heat culture. Chalk another one up for heat culture. Giannis spoke. He got caught lacking on IG Live, not in the Ja Morant way, but he got caught lacking. What do you do when you know something you want? What do you do when there's something you want to happen, but you know you can't say anything about it publicly? The Nigerian freak did not know how to move, was kind of shaky in the light, and just kind of gave a non-answer. But it was something that I spoke about here on the stream last week. When you know, you know. Game 2, Lakers and Nuggets tonight. Darvin Ham considering some lineup changes. He learned from his game 1 mistake, or more specifically from his first half starting lineup mistake. He adjusted in the second half and he almost was able to come all the way back. But now it appears he's going to go with that adjustment from the second half of game 1 into the beginning of game 2. We'll touch on it. As appreciated, likes are always appreciated, whether you're watching this live on the replay. Comments on the replay, chat if you're live is also always appreciated. Feel free to reach out. But I will warn you, negativity, yeah, we don't tolerate too much of that over here, so you will get the block. Especially short form content. I forgot, I took a little break from doing short form content, but jumping back in this week has reminded me of all the negativity just waiting for you on the short form content side. But anyway, the block button is a wonderful thing. Use it at your discretion, because I damn sure do use it. All right, let's jump right in. Hemi Butler and the Miami Heat take game 1. It was a entertaining game, but again, the Celtics just keep showing us ways they cannot be who they're supposed to be. This is supposed to be a team that has a plethora of lottery picks up and down the roster. This is a team that has, with Jason Tatum for sure, a top 10 player. Some people might go higher, but at minimum, he's a top 10 guy. And you have Jaylen Brown, who maybe is in the top 20, top 25. And then you have your Marcus Smarts, you have your Al Horfords, you have your Time Lords, you have your Malcolm Brogdon, who seems to be healthy. So he's a factor. Like, they have all the pieces to where, from a talent perspective, they should run most teams off the floor. Whether it was, Ime Udoka last year, they had to grit and grind their way to the finals, or whether it's this year, where with Joe Mazzulla in place of Ime Udoka, they just don't look fluid. They just can't seem to put it together consistently. And this has been a mainstay throughout the Tatum and Brown era. This isn't something that we could just put on Joe Mazzulla or even Ime Udoka. This goes all the way back to the boy genius Brad Stevens. So, the Celtics dropped game 1 at the crib. And I think the main thing people are going to talk about is the third quarter. The third quarter, the Heat outscored the Celtics by 21 points. And your man's Joe Mazzulla did not take one timeout. He watched his team get smoked at the crib by a team that's not supposed to shoot that well historically, who is now all of a sudden bombing away 40-plus threes like they're the Dubs in the Miami Heat. Ran out the gym in the third quarter. Interesting. Joe Mazzulla is not winning a lot of favors with his coaching style. He is not one to take timeouts. I don't know if he thinks he's Phil Jackson. You know, Phil Jackson was one of the first coaches of my lifetime that I remember that would allow the Bulls, and then even later with the Lakers, to just play through it. Your team is in the middle of being down in a run. Just let them play through it. It's easy to do that when you have Michael Jordan, Kobe, and Shaq. You could just play through it. But with Joe Mazzulla, your team's getting smoked, giving up 46 points in the third quarter straight out of halftime, and you don't take one timeout. You're not Phil Jackson, Joe Mazzulla. Jason Tatum, as much as he tries, he is not Kobe. Not yet, anyway. Very, very interesting how, we have Joe Mazzulla trying to be on that Phil Jackson, and then watching the Heat go out there and continuously smoke. Like, if we look at this third quarter, let's just look right at the third quarter alone, bruh. Jimmy had 12 in the third. Max Strus had 13. Bam had 9. K-Love chipped in with 5. Caleb Martin with a 3. Kyle Lowry with a bucket. Gabe Vincent with a bucket. And these are super high. Like, they shot 65% from the floor in the third quarter. 65% from the floor, 6 of 9 from 3. The Heat are not a good three-point shooting team. At least they weren't in the regular season. Now, all of a sudden in the playoffs, they're 67% from 3 1/4. And they got to the line. And they only had 1 turnover. Like, they had 17 field goals. They only had 7 assists. Bruh. Joe Mazzulla, he tried to shake it off, but as bad as the third quarter was, there was still a chance in the fourth quarter where the game was relatively still in the balance, right? Because if you look at it here, even by getting blown out by 21 in the third, it didn't really matter because that means they were up 7 going into the half, right? 30 and 36, that's 66. 28 and 29, that is 57. So they were up by 9. And then they get blown out by 21 in the third, but then they're able to scratch and claw their way back into it. But let's move to the fourth quarter, where the Celtics were within 5 with 4:50 to go. And then this litany of possessions happened. A Jaylen Brown missed 3, a Al Horford turnover, a Jason Tatum turnover. Brogdon missed 1 of 2 from the line, and then back-to-back Jason Tatum turnovers. And here's a little editorial stuff from Chris Forsberg, who I think covers the team. Yeah, Celtics reporter. Celtics continue to be elite at making their lives way more difficult than they need to be. So even after getting blown out in the third quarter by 21, they scratched and clawed their way back to be within 5 with 4:50 to go. And then this is what happened. 3 turnovers for Jason Tatum. Jaylen Brown bricking a 3. Al Horford committing a turnover. And Brogdon missing 1 of 2. So let's go to that fourth quarter. And again, Jimmy Butler was Jimmy Butler. Gave you 8 in the fourth to close the show. Gabe Vincent hit a big 3 to kind of cement the lead. Caleb Martin gave you something, including the 3 as well. So even though the Heat knew that the Celtics were going to try to scratch and claw their way back into it, it didn't matter because at the end of it, Jimmy Butler made the shots late and he had 3 steals in that fourth quarter. Meanwhile, when you look at the Celtics, here's what you get from your man's Jason Tatum, who looked like, Kobe, Game 7 against the Sixers. Fourth quarter at the crib, against the Heat, not one field goal in the fourth quarter. But those 3 turnovers, though. Make it make sense. Yes, he got to the line and converted free throws, so he wasn't scoreless, but he didn't attempt a shot. That's a rarity. And it wasn't like, the Heat implemented some new scheme and it was just giving Tatum problems. It was just, just wasn't getting the rock. Wasn't getting the rock. And we've talked about the point guard position before. I think it should be Malcolm Brogdon, and Brogdon played the entire fourth quarter. So they went small at times with him and Marcus Smart and even Peyton Pritchard. But I think there needs to be a easier way to get your best player the rock, especially in the fourth quarter when you're trying to scratch and claw your way back from getting blown out of your own gym in the third quarter. There has to be an easier way than just making sure Tatum gets it on the elbow and everyone else clears out the way. There has to be a semblance of a motion offense that you can run to free up your best player. Why can't Tatum come off curls and pin downs and hammers? Why not? Extremely problematic if you're the Boston Celtics. There was a lot of problems. Jason Tatum takes no shots in the fourth quarter, 3 turnovers. I'm not saying this is going to be a microcosm, but what I'm saying is this is how the Heat win this series. Because for whatever reason, when the Celtics really need it, and I know what happened in Game 7 against Philly, but we all know that's Philly, right? We can't really look at it from a perspective of, this is, just how Boston gets down. No, because they've been too inconsistent, not just this year, not last year under Ime Udoka, but they've been inconsistent this entire run. Going back to this, going back to the boy genius, Brad Stevens, and the scammer them Dea, Danny Ainge. They've been inconsistent throughout this whole run, and the Heat walk in there and Heat culture them to death. This was a Heat culture win. That third quarter was just a onslaught of Heat culture. Getting blown out at the crib by 21 when you were up 7, up 9 at the half. How, Joe Mazzulla? How? And then when you find a way to scratch and claw your way back in the fourth quarter to make it a close game, with 4:50 left to go in the game, this is how you give it up. A Jaylen Brown missed 3, a Al Horford turnover, and 3 turnovers in 4 possessions for Jason Tatum. You can't have that if you want everyone to take you serious. Sunday was Sunday. That's considered old news. So let's hear from Joe Mazzulla in that mystical, magical third quarter. Now, here's the quote. We won 3 of the 4 quarters. We got away from who we are in the third quarter. Hopefully, this is the full soundbite.
Discipline.
Let me run that back.
Lost our offensive purpose, lost our game plan discipline, allowed them to get out in transition, get second chance shots, didn't guard the 3-point line.
Okay, so here's the problem, Joe. If you see your team getting away from themselves in who y'all are in the third quarter, why don't you take a timeout? Maybe take a timeout, let your guys catch their breath, and then remind them who y'all are. You're going to let them just continuously get blown out by 21 in the third? For what? What purpose does that serve? You can't get Phil Jackson on. That's not Kobe. We know he tries to be Kobe. Tatum ain't Kobe. Phil Jackson could do that in terms of not taking a timeout and just letting his players figure it out because he had goats. Tatum ain't that, bruh. No matter what Kobe cosplay he keeps trying to get off, he ain't that. Take a timeout.
This is your 4th home loss, and I'll ask you the question in practice yesterday, but again, you're 500 at home. How does that keep happening?
I don't think that has anything to do with the fact that We won the three other four quarters.
Bruh, he asked you, why are you 500 at home in the playoffs? And you're saying that has nothing to do with the fact of anything because we won 3 of the 4 quarters?
We got away from who we are in the third quarter, whether it's home or away. It's the details, it's the environment, it's the little things. We've shown we can do it.
If it's the details and the little things, why don't you take a timeout to remind and re-emphasize those details and those little things? Isn't that what timeouts are for?
Both home and away, and I don't think that matters as much as what our mindset is during certain stretches.
It doesn't. Wait, hold up. That last part threw me. Hold up. What did he
I
say?
don't think that matters as much as what our mindset is during certain stretches.
It doesn't matter as much in regards to their mindset at certain quarters. Dog, that's why you take the timeout. That's exactly why you take the timeout. What other reason is there to take the timeout than to be like, oh, this is no. We need to go ahead and get readjusted here, refocused here. These guys need to get, let's first of all, we take the timeout to cool off the other team. Max Strus's bombs away, Jimmy's bombs away. Whoa. Let's take a 20. Sit down, reassess, get a drink of juice, Gatorade, Michael's secret stuff, or in Tatum's case, Kobe's secret stuff, whatever it is. Let's reassess this. Let's come and draw up a good inbounds play. Let's get a nice, good, clean possession and try to stop the momentum or stop the rhythm that the other team is in if you don't believe in the concept of momentum. But to sit here and think Tatum, Brown, Marcus Smart, Al Horford, Peyton Pritchard, you're dusting off Peyton Pritchard, all these guys are good enough to just figure it out? Nah, bruh.
Lost our offensive purpose, lost our game plan discipline.
They lost their offensive purpose. Take the timeout.
Allowed them to get out in transition, get second chance shots, didn't guard the three-point line.
Didn't guard the three-point line. Take a timeout and remind your team to do that.
This is your 4th home loss.
Bruh.
I asked you the question in practice yesterday, but again, you're 500 at home. How does that keep happening?
I don't think that has anything to do with the fact that, we won the 3 other 4 quarters. We got away from who we are in the third quarter. Whatever.
They won 3 out of the 4 quarters. That's something that happened in last year's playoffs, where they would win all these quarters, but somehow the Heat would still end up winning the game. And that's why it took them 7 games last year. So it's kind of, you're just running back the same thing that happened last year. That doesn't show any signs of improvement. After all that of going through a new coaching, a coaching change, everything else that comes with that, him coming in and learning on the job, you telling me the same exact thing that happened last year is going to happen again this year? Now, hopefully for Missoula's sake, the end result runs it back because the Celtics won the series last year. But there's no way you can spin the narrative that this team is better when they come out and they do the same exact thing last year where, well, we won 3 out of the 4 quarters. Yeah, but this team won 3 games in a 7-game series and took you to 7. That's not how you go about this. But Missoula looked real shaky in the light there, bro. Extremely shaky in the light. And if this becomes a coach versus coach series in terms of adjustments, then the Heat are going to walk through the Celtics. The Heat are going to walk through the Celtics if this series comes down to which coach. Missoula is so frustrating, bro. I can't say it enough. But truly and genuinely, if this comes down to coach versus coach adjustments on the fly, in game, and during the series, this is going to be a cakewalk for the Heat. The gap is that large. Spo is him. He keeps finding a way. There's a whole, we keep hearing heat culture, undrafted free agents, this, that, and the third. Jimmy Butler is the best player on this team, and a lot of teams would think that their best player is better than Jimmy Butler, yet here's Jimmy Butler is in the Eastern Conference Final year after year after year. Heat culture, as annoying as it is, when you're going up against the likes of the Celtics, whose 2 stars might not be ready for prime time in this sense, in terms of consistently being ready for prime time, this is why heat culture gets to exist, because Jimmy Butler is ready for prime time every single night. Every single night. Whether he plays well or not, the effort is there. We've never heard, oh, well, it seemed like Jimmy was checked out. You don't hear that about Jimmy Butler. We haven't witnessed that with Jimmy Butler. I don't think we would have a game that matters in the playoffs. Well, to the Heat, all the games matter, but a game that truly matters in the playoffs and see a game where Jimmy Butler goes in the fourth quarter and doesn't attempt one shot. I don't see that happening. And that's why he's Jimmy Butler. And let's go ahead and go to the shot chart, because it was interesting to watch how he moved around the court. I think that ankle is still a thing, but he's pushing through. Look where the shots were, bruh. Look where the shots were and look where they weren't. I pulled up the shot chart of Bron from game 1 against the Nuggets. He had all these unnecessary threes, including bricking a 3 late with a chance to tie. You see where Jimmy was getting his money? Right where Jimmy belongs. Middies. He gave you the occasional, on the line 3 and an actual 3, but he was going to get into the middle of the floor. I'm going to get to my spot by hook or by crook, and I'm going to do work. I'm going to do work where I know I can get it off. And even though these are misses, this is where you want him taking these shots. And therein lies the difference. Having a guy that knows what he's supposed to do, because, again, he could be taking shots out here. He could be, but he ain't. He could be taking shots all out here, but he ain't, because that ain't him, and he knows his game. But where he is going to take it and where he knows his game is middies. Midi. I'm going to midi you. I'm going to force the action. I'm going to get my shot. Even if the shot don't go in, I'm coming right back to take more shots, because this is my spot. And if I keep taking shots from here, I'm either going to get fouled or my guys are going to clean up the glass on the offensive side and get putbacks. Whereas if we go to Tatum, and Tatum really does think he Kobe. Why didn't he follow the blueprint? If this is working, what happened in the fourth quarter? Where was any of this in the fourth quarter for Jason Tatum? We'll go to third quarter. Only 4 shots. So he did a lot of work in the second quarter. That's where he did a lot of his damage in the paint. So first half, he was getting it off in the paint. After halftime, the third quarter, so while the Heat are running up and down, doing their work, there was at no point that Joe Mazzulla thought, well, let me take a timeout and draw up a play for Tatum, so maybe we can get him going in the middle of this run. Not one time. And in the fourth quarter, this is a real thing. This is a real shot chart for Jason Tatum. I'm gonna have to take a screenshot of that. That shit's too hilarious. Hang on. I gotta put that on the Elon app, because I don't think people understand how bad this is. How bad that is right there. Yeah, people gotta see that. All right, so now that I got that out the way, where does this series go now? Because if we're looking at the Celtics, clearly that third quarter was a disaster, right? I don't think we would get that again. But the problem is you got a good Jimmy game, not a phenomenal, crazy, put the team on my back Jimmy game, but you got what you expect from Jimmy. He's averaging 10 more points in the playoffs than he is in the regular season. Because that's just how he gets down, right? So Jimmy pulls up. He gives you his 35. Bam does what Bam does. Gabe Vincent gets you 15. Strus gets you 15. K-Love hits the glass a little bit, chips in some points. Caleb Martin and Kyle Lowry. Like, this is a bound. That's like 6 dudes in double figures. Celtics, man. Celtics are rough. I think they'll bounce back and win game 2. I think that we're looking at another 6-7 game series here. Because I don't think, unless we get the Joe Mazzulla versus Spo matchup being the deciding factor. If Tatum is going to continue, this 30 points is empty. This 30 points is empty when you look at it, because in the fourth quarter, this man did not attempt not one shot and had 3 turnovers in a 4-possession span late in the fourth quarter. So this 30 points that people are going to clam onto, but let's break that down by quarter. Fourth quarter, where's Jason Tatum? 0 for 0. 3 turnovers. That's your best player. This is game 1 of the ECF at the crib. 0 for 0. 3 turnovers. Thankfully, Jaylen Brown at least took some shots. Now, again, I don't like where he took them shots. He was 0 for 4 from 3 in the fourth. But again, teams trying to claw back into it. You might force some threes just to, trim the lead faster, whatever. But that's where the issue is for the Celtics. Again, Marcus Smart looked like a real point guard in the first half. And then in the second half, I didn't see none of that. 1 assist in the second half for Marcus Smart. And what, he had like 11 in the first? Let's see. 10 in the first. 10 assists in the first half. And then second half, he only gave you 1 more assist the entirety of the game. And he played 15, 16 minutes. Big choke job. Just call it what it is. Big choke job by the Celtics, especially that third quarter. That third quarter, I'll put that more on Mazzulla, because you can't let your team get blown out by 21 in the third quarter and not take a timeout. You're not Phil Jackson. And as much as Jason Tatum thinks he is, Jason Tatum is not Kobe. So you can't do what you did with Michael Jordan. You can't do what you did with Kobe and Shaq and then just Kobe, where you let guys just play through timeouts. At some point, even at that point, if the Bulls were completely going to run off the floor, you might let a little 7-0 run go by. You might let, even a 10-0 run go by. But when it's a 16-17-0 run or a 19-2 run, yo, bruh, 20. Give me a 20. At least a 20. You don't got to take a full. A 20. Just to remind your team, like you said in the post game, remind your team of your offensive philosophy. He said in the post game, the team got away from the offensive philosophy in the third quarter. Well, why the hell aren't you reminding them of that by taking a 20-second timeout in the middle of getting blown out by 21 at the crib in game 1? Crazy, man. I just don't get it. Mazzulla's got a lot of work to do, man. I know he's a rookie coach, and we got to give him some grace. Was he like 34 years old or some craziness like that? But you can't have this disparity in matchup when it's, 2 teams that you could argue are relatively evenly matched. When you have Spo, who damn near half of his coaching career, he's made it to the East, he's made it to the conference finals, as opposed to a 34-year-old rookie head coach in Joe Mazzulla, who still doesn't know when to take timeouts to stop runs. Why was the boy genius, Brad Stevens, so swiftly kicked upstairs? This, to me, falls to him. He was the boy genius from Butler that was supposed to come to the NBA and run shit. He was supposed to be the next Phil Jackson. He was going to be that guy, the next Pat Riley. He was supposed to be that guy. Mans did a handful of seasons, and it stressed him the fuck out, and he ran upstairs to the front office, ducked all the smoke, He was given non-lottery picks and could never make the finals. Then Ime comes in there in 1 year, gets that same roster with non-lottery picks that the boy genius Brad Stevens couldn't figure out how to get them over the hump. One season, Ime Udoka, he's able to go in there and clean it up just enough to get them to the finals. Then, he was end up being, Mr. Nasty Man like Deshaun Watson, and so they had to get him up out of there. And now we got this youngin' Joe Mazzulla who don't know when to take timeouts. And it's costing them games. This isn't in the middle of, January where you could trick off a game just by fucking around. I'm not going to call a timeout tonight. I'm going to see if they can work through it. This ain't a throwaway game against the Bulls or the Pistons in January. This is game 1 of the conference finals at the crib. Crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. So we have that. Let's now move to Giannis. Giannis said the thing. Or, more importantly, he did not say the thing. Remember on this stream last week, we were trying to figure out the demise of the Warriors and how to fix it. And, the Bucks are out here trying to find a new coach, and that roster could be very vastly different heading into next year. And there might not be that much of a window left for that Buck team. And I said, don't forget, Giannis wants to play with Steph. I got the files. It's on this channel last week. Now, somebody on IG Live pulled up on Giannis. I guess this was repurposed for TikTok. I thought it was IG. Maybe it was TikTok. I don't know. But Giannis was asked to join the Warriors, and his response tells you everything if you read in between the lines.
Bro, please come to the Warriors. Somebody said please come to the Warriors.
He hasn't answered the question yet. Look at that face. Look at that face. Who's that next to him? The Nassus?
Hey.
Hey, that's not a no.
Hey.
Hey, that's not a no.
Hey, man.
Hey, man, that's not a no.
Bro, please come to the Warriors. Somebody said please come to the Warriors.
Hey, man, if you know, you know.
Hey.
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 Hey, man.
Hey, man.
Bro, please come to the...
Hey, man. When you know, you know. Anyway, so again, let's speak on why this could be a potential thing, right? So we'll use that to set up essentially what we talked about last week when it came to this topic. The Bucks are near the end of their window, right? There's going to be a new coach. There's rumors about Doc Rivers. There's rumors about every coach trying to go be, the Bucks coach because they have Giannis. They still have Jrue Holiday, Chris Middleton. They're not quite sure. Brook Lopez, they're not quite sure. But that's kind of the problem. Jrue Holiday has said, I'm only going to play out this contract and then I'm retiring. That's only 2 seasons. Okay. Chris Middleton, there's a chance he doesn't come back. Okay. Brook Lopez, that contract runs out, I believe, after next year. There's no youngins here to replenish. There's no rebuilding or retooling on the fly that's been done with this Bucks roster. It's just Giannis. So now, therefore, if the core of the team that won the chip 2 years ago, which was very fortunate because Kevin Durant wore a shoe size 1 size too big, if the core of that team is going away and all you're left with is Giannis, and Giannis knows all I'm left with is me, who really wants to be in Milwaukee, bruh? Who really wants to be in Milwaukee, bruh? When you can see a scenario where Clay, might be gone. The habitual nut hitter, Draymond Green, might be gone. Jordan Poole might be flipped. That opens up a lot of cap space. And you can have Steph and Giannis, because we know Steph ain't going nowhere. But that don't mean Giannis ain't going nowhere. And Giannis and Steph, they've been doing a little googly eye thing. And, the All-Star game, they had the bounce pass from Steph to Giannis, and it was a great moment. They're like this. So, again, the Warriors' whole thing has been trying to extend as long as possible the peak of Steph Curry. Why not go get the Nigerian freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo, to extend Steph Curry's peak, his prime? Because it ain't going to be done with no Jordan Poole. It ain't being done with no habitual nut hitter Draymond Green. They refuse to unleash Jonathan Kuminga, Ryan Rollins, Moses Moody, Patrick Baldwin Jr. So if it's not going to be any of them, then go flip some of those things. That's the thing. The Dubs have all these youngins now, and with potentially Bob Myers moving on, maybe kind of, sort of. There's no allegiance to whoever they bring in unless they promote from within. There's no allegiance to whoever comes in there to those guys. Those guys are just assets to him or her. So why not? If you could put a trade package together, it'll never seem good enough on paper. But in theory, the Warriors have about 4 youngins that other teams covet. So if this old core of the Bucks if the window is damn near closed, why not go get 3 of the 4, maybe all 4? You asked for all 4, but maybe you got to settle for 3 of the 4 of those youngins that the Warriors have. Throw in Poole. Maybe you throw in another body. Maybe bring back Dante DiVincenzo to make the salaries work. Maybe. And go get Giannis. Throw in some future first, obviously, pick swaps, all that type of stuff, whatever protected. Why not? Why not? The Bucks window is, to me, it's closed. To me, it's closed. Giannis is pretty much a finished product. He squeezed every ounce out of what his body could be and what his basketball acumen and skill set and talent could be. I think he's a finished product. Drew Holiday's getting older, and the Heat abused him. As strong as he is, as great defensively as he is, the Heat worked Drew Holiday. Chris Middleton is supposed to be also top tier defensively, hasn't looked it in a while. Battled through injuries. He's become an all-star. He's more known for his shot now. I don't know. He's very much in the same place like Klay Thompson, where at one point he was a great two-way player. I don't think he's a great two-way player anymore. And then you have the Brook Lopez's, you have the Bobby Portis's, where it's like, all right, they're role players. You can't really do nothing with them. So if you're Giannis and you're looking around like, how's this going to look in 2-3 years? Who going to be here in 2-3 years? Why do I need to be here in 2-3 years? We'll see. Mans didn't want to answer at all. I don't think that's a coincidence. It's been the worst kept secret that him and Steph have been making googly eyes and trying to figure that whole thing out. So I'm a little surprised he didn't give an answer, but I just think it's hilarious the answer that he ultimately did give us.
Bro, please come to the Warriors.
Hey, it's very much like when you get pressed by the girl that you like, or her homegirls come up to you, so you say, yo, you like her? And you're like, hey, I mean, she cool. I mean, hey.
Somebody said please come to the Warriors.
I mean,
Hey.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Hey.
Hey, man. I mean, she
Bro,
cool.
please come to the Warriors.
Like, come on, dogs. You want to be a warrior. It's okay. All right, let's see what else we got. Okay, so there was a question that was asked yesterday on the timeline. I meant to pull it up during the stream, but it's still here, and I think it's still relevant because now we have answer to the question late last night. Of the Golden State Warriors, since we just talked about the Warriors, would you like to guess? And this is such a great moment for me because it's so 2023 and it's so today's NBA. Let's tabulate the amount of team wins that the Golden State Warriors had, right? So let's go ahead and do that first. I'm gonna slow play this one. Let's go ahead and find it. The Warriors had 44 regular season wins, right? 44 regular season wins, and then they made it to the second round. So they won another 4 games, so that's 48. And then they won 2 games against the Lakers, so that's 50. So in total, they won 50 games as a team this year, right? So 50 wins. So keep that number in mind, 50 wins. Now, if you want to tabulate, let's now tabulate how many podcast episodes were done by people on the Warriors and in the Warriors front office. Okay, so we have 50 wins total, 44 regular season, and 6 more in the playoffs. But how does that relate to people on the Warriors doing podcasts? How many podcast episodes? Well, someone did the math, and I think the numbers would shock you. the habitual nut hitter, Draymond did 42 episodes of his pod. Andre Iguodala, if you didn't know, also has a podcast. He did 28 episodes of his podcast. So that's 60 already. Then you have Bob Myers, who had 12 episodes. Okay? Excuse me, that's 70, not 60. My bad. 70. And then Bob Myers did 12 episodes of a podcast. So that's 82 podcast episodes to 50 wins for the Warriors this season. This was the organization that's going to revolutionize basketball. Just because they, tricked into Steph and Clay. Revolutionized basketball. Drafted James Wiseman number 2 overall when they could have had LaMelo and ended up flipping him for 5 second-round picks. Revolutionizing basketball while the team has more podcast episodes than wins, including the playoffs. That team not serious, bruh. Tear it all down. Tear it all down in the Bay. When you got more episodes of podcasts being done than team victories, it's an 82-game season. They did 82 podcast episodes. Where is the priorities? Where do they lie? Hella problematic, bruh. Hella problematic. All right. So we got the game tonight. Lake Show, Denver, game 2. Can they rebound? Can the Lake Show rebound? Your man's Darvin Ham is trying to rebound in regards to understanding that a starting lineup move has to be made because he foolishly started Dennis Schroeder and went small in game 1, and it was just an abomination of a first half for the Lakers. He switched it up in the second half. He inserted Rui Hachimura into the starting lineup coming out into the second half to exclusively play defense on Nikola Jokic, even though he got buckets as well. But the main thing is that he was big and sturdy enough, to give Jokic at least a body that wouldn't be Swiss cheese, and it also allowed Anthony Davis to roam and then be the help weak side defender. So now there's reports that Darvin Ham is going to now start Rui Hachimura in game 2. My response to that is about damn time. Whether it was Vanderbilt or Rui, it didn't matter to me. Why he went with a 3-guard lineup against a lineup that's as big on the glass and physical as the Nuggets, I have no idea. As a former player, I am stunned that he thought that would be the move. Did he still think he was playing the Dubs? I don't know what the hell Darvin Ham was thinking. And this is why sometimes we just assume people that played have all this acumen. Even a guy that's astute like Darvin Ham, to have created plays that have become mainstays in the league, even he sometimes can have a brain fart and think going small against the Nuggets is the way to go. So when we're looking at this, obviously game one, tale of two halves, Lakers actually scored the ball relatively easy in the second half, but then they were always fighting from behind because the Nuggets got out far in front so easily, so comfortably, because they had such a size advantage. Like, let's look at the halftime stats. All right, so let's look at the glass. 11 rebounds in the first, no, let's get this right. 13 rebounds. 13 rebounds in the first half for them, right? 13. Jokic had 16 by himself. Oh, excuse me. Wait a minute. Is this right? Total 13. Total over here. Okay, yeah. So 36-13 rebound advantage in the first half. I'll say those numbers again. 36-13 advantage in the first half. That's damn near triple, dog. You started a 3-guard lineup, and they out-rebounded you threefold, and you had to switch it up. Now you're going to go back to allegedly a traditional lineup, and we'll hope for better adjustments. But I know one thing's not going to change, is that D'Lo is going to get hunted. Is that another adjustment? Because Bruce Brown gave out the game plan after game one. He said, yeah, we hunted D'Angelo Russell. We basically are going to do screen and rolls to get our best players on D'Angelo Russell and just let it happen from there. It's like what teams do to Steph Curry. Let's find Steph Curry, screen and switch until you have your best player being guarded by Steph Curry, and then say, all right, go to work. Go to work. So we'll see how that goes. But unfortunately, when you're really trying to break this down, Darvin Ham's got to figure this out. Because if Bruce Brown is giving out the tea that boldly in the post game of game one, saying that, yeah, we going after D'Lo all the time, then if you're going to make a lineup switch and Rui Hachimura is now going to be in the starting lineup, then maybe you bench D'Lo. But I don't know if his ego can handle that. But then you can't. I don't think you could bench Austin Reeves. So then you bench Schroeder. But if you know they're hunting D'Lo, like if that's the game plan, can you really live D'Lo out there? What adjustment can you make if they're clearly saying we are going to hunt D'Angelo Russell? We're going to keep setting screens and dribble handoffs until we get the switch that we want of D'Lo guarding whoever. Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, Jokic, Jamal Murray, and even Bruce Brown. Bruh. I don't know what Darvin Ham's going to do, but there is a lot going on that he needs to figure out. Nets World, what's good, man? Salute. Who do you think is the biggest choker in NBA history? I got to say the point fraud. I think I got to go with the point fraud. Either point fraud or the beard, James Harden. Yeah, in NBA history, like, because you're talking about blowing multiple 3-1 leads, 2-1 leads, 2-0 leads. The Beard had that game 7 where they went 0 for 27 at the crib in the conference finals. Like, I think it's between the Beard and the point fraud. You said Karl Malone. Well, when did Karl Malone choke? Well, I guess he choked game 6 against the Bulls, that the last chip for Jordan. And yeah, he got stripped by Scottie. that first finals matchup, right? He got stripped by Scotty. Then he told Mailman the mail don't get delivered on Sundays, and the Mailman bricked the free throws. So that's 2 instances, but that's at least in the finals. Like, choking in the conference finals over 27 at the crib, that's pretty tough. Choking off multiple 2-0, 2-1, 3-1 leads for the point fraud, that's tough. Like, I think that's, and right now, I can't say the Celtics yet. I would say we might have to start putting Tatum and Brown in some of these conversations, but not yet. Because at least they made it to a finals. But yeah, I would say it's hard for me to say Malone because, like, Malone, but he made it to the finals twice. Like, it's hard to say someone choked when he made it to the finals twice. And even though he won MVP, we know he shouldn't have been, but, you know, Jordan fatigue. Let's see. You're saying his numbers and efficiency went down? Call points per game and efficiency goes down. Okay, let's see. I don't mind changing it up. Let's see. All right, so what year was that they went to the finals against the Bulls? 97, 98? Okay, so 97, 98, right? All right, so let's memorize these numbers. 27, and you said efficiency, right? So efficiency, he shot 50%? Shit. 50% for the floor. Man, he was an efficient statutory rapist. 55% and 53%. Okay, let's see the playoffs in those same years. 96, 97. 96, 97. 97, 98. I mean, it did drop by more than 10%. It dropped to 44%, so that's an 11% drop from the regular season. And then 53%? So he dropped about another 6% in the postseason. But the points, though, he still gave you 26, man. He was averaging 27 in the regular season. He only dropped down to 26. If we're talking peak Karl Malone, like, you got to understand, he also had to go through the Rockets a lot of these years. You know, the Spurs were still a thing with Robinson and Sean Elliott and those guys. Like, some formidable competition. The Supersonics at this point. Like, there was some comp in the West. So it wasn't a cakewalk to come out the West. It's his whole career, though. I mean, I don't know if those, like, Jazz teams were ever thought to be contenders, like real championship contenders, outside of, like, that 3-year run where 2 of those 3 years they actually made the finals. Like, I think this year here, 95, 96, that's probably when people started taking the Jazz as a team seriously, right? Like, I don't know if these other years, like, let's see, who was on this squad in 93, 94? Let's see who was on this squad. Okay, so they lost to the conference finals. They got swept out of it it was a gentleman's sweep to the Rockets. So that was either the Clyde Drexler year or the year before. So yeah, that Jazz team should not have beaten the Houston Rockets. So I don't know how that was a choke. And then let's see, what was the other year where they had 91, 92? They had a long playoff run. Let's see, 91, 92. They lost in 6 to the Trailblazers. I mean, yeah, that Trailblazer team was better than them. Yeah, that Trailblazer team was better than them. I don't think that was a choke. And they got the Supersonics up out of here in 5. That was impressive. I mean, beating the Clippers back then wasn't much. What was that, Ron Harper? Like, come on. Danny Manning. So, yeah, I don't know about Karl Malone. Maybe Karl Malone, the biggest choker, was a bit too harsh, but he was one, though. I mean, he certainly choked in big moments. He had some notable chokes, right? Like him getting stripped by Scotty, and then Scotty talking trash to him and getting him to brick the free throws with the trash talk. That's a moment. And then we got the epic moment of Jordan hitting the shot, which is preceded by Jordan stripping Malone in the post. So I think there's a couple of moments that stand out of Malone being a choker. But I don't know if that makes him the biggest choker. But nah, he definitely choked in those two spots specifically. He definitely choked. I mean, he got stripped when he was the MVP and all that. So I agree with you that there's definitely some moments where Karl Malone was a notable choker. And anytime we can talk shit about Karl Malone, I am here for it. We do not support statutory rapists here. We do not support, unfortunately, this league was parading that man around like he was a legend just because he was in the cocoon of the city that he played in his whole career up until the very end. So, yeah, not here for that. But Lake Show Nuggets. I think Darvin Ham, let me see. Let me do a quick search, see if Darvin Ham has made it official with that lineup. There was a hot take that was dropped. We are going to get to that. There was a ridiculous hot take that was crazy. By your man's, who was it? Your man's Chris Broussard. I know y'all probably saw it. If you haven't, I got it. Don't worry about it. But I just want to make sure and see if Darvin Ham has announced his starting lineup for tonight, because there's rumors about Rui Hachimura starting tonight. But let's see. Appreciate the likes for people pulling up. We've been out here going hard. Pause. We just broke down if Karl Malone's a choker. We just broke down if Karl Malone's a choker, and we have come to the conclusion that not only is he a statutory rapist, but he is also a choker. So there's your Karl Malone information for the day. We broke down how Joe Mazzulla might trick this off for the Celtics with his horrible coaching. The fact that he let his team get blown out by 21 points in the third quarter last night and not take a timeout because he thinks he's Phil Jackson and he really thinks Jason Tatum is Kobe, and that his team should just play through it like Phil Jackson used to let the Bulls and Lakers do back in the day. Like, it was really problematic, coaching from Joe Mazzulla. He looked very shaky in the light, and I think that could be a potential problem as this series goes along. Eric Spoelstra is so good because, out of his 15 years coaching, he's reached the conference finals 7 years. 7 times out of 15. That's damn near half your career, bruh. He's made it to the conference finals. And yeah, he had the LeBron years, and that was a cheat code. But the fact that he's made it 3 times post LeBron is also a thing in itself. You got to give him his props for that. Because we know those rosters on paper aren't good enough to be in the Eastern Conference Finals, but yet they made it 3 times. That's World. I'm watching the point fraud choking compilation. It's so satisfying, dog. Sometimes I sit back and I'll rewatch some of those Fraud City, aka Lob City, choking games, and I'll just sit back and just have a blast. Just have a blast. Watch the point fraud, who, Barkley foolishly always calls the best floor general, the best leader in sports, all this bullshit. And he's just throwing games away with turnovers, missed jumpers. That year in Houston, he pulls the hammy when they're up 3-2. He doesn't come back in game 6. Game 7, the whole damn roster goes 0 for 27 from 3. Oh, it's amazing. Every missed 3, they kept zooming in on the point fraud, and he's just sitting there just fuming, furious. Then he goes to Phoenix and finally reaches the finals. The Suns are the favorite because he's the sentimental favorite, because everyone except me, and I'm assuming based off his comments, Nets World, we're the only ones that don't want this man to win this chip. And then he goes up 2-0. And I could tell y'all, my mentions were lit of people that were throwing shade like, yeah, you're gonna have to walk back all that point fraud shit. You're gonna have to walk it all back. And I'm like, the basketball gods will not let me down. And they're like, later for that. You just talking, you just ducking. Nah. Make sure you on the timeline when they holding up that chip. I said, the basketball gods will not let me down. the basketball gods will not let a guy that's been punching people in the nuts since a teenager hold up a Larry O.B. The basketball gods will never allow such a thing. And Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Nigerian freak, went on a run of 4 games. Matter of fact, let's just go back and look at the box scores. Let's go back and just examine that run. Because it was glorious. It was glorious. That man walked them down game by game by game, and they had nothing for him. Absolutely nothing for him. Oh, it was great. Let's see, Eastern Conference. Here we go. So game 1, Nigerian freak only had 20. 20 and 17. Okay? That's still hellas. Okay? That's still hella crazy. 20 and 17. Game 2, 42 and 12, but it's still a loss. And they got blown out in both games. Okay? So Giannis played well, even off the injury, but clearly hampered, but just bully balled his way through, but they still got handled easily. Then they take it to the crib, game 3. 41 and 13, huge home team effort. Got to change the momentum. They blow out the Suns. It's okay. People still are like, it's just their one game. The point fraud has this figured out. He's got D booked. They cooking. Giannis ain't really Giannis. He's hurt. He's battling through. Don't worry about it. Like, you still going to have to eat your words, Sam. Okay. The basketball gods don't like ugly. Game 4. 26 and 14, but efficient as hell. 11 of 19. Free throws were still shaky, but they gave you 14 boards and 8 dimes. Point forward, the Nigerian freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo, 26, 8, and 14, with some blocks and some steals. And they even the series up. Now I'm like, what was that you were telling me about the point fraud being the sentimental favorite? Suns in 7. They got to go back to Phoenix. They can't beat them in Phoenix. Then what happened when they got back to Phoenix in game 5? What happened to Phoenix? 32 and 9 with 6 more dimes. Again, efficient as hell. 14 of 23. Free throws still a disaster, but still found a way to get it done. And I'm like, do you feel the karma? Do you feel the power of the almighty basketball gods? Suns in 7. Okay. You still don't see it. You still don't believe. Okay. And then in one of the greatest closeout performances in NBA Finals history, 16 of 25. Actually made a 3. Actually made all his free throws, damn near. After being mid the entire series, 90% from the line in a potential closeout game. 14 boards. Don't need to pass the rock no more. I'm taking it home myself. Look at these blocks. Look at these steals. 5 blocks. 5 blocks. A 50 burger. 50, 14, couple dimes, 5 blocks, 17 of 19 from the free throw, and he threw in a 3 for good measure. And the point fraud choked again. It's times like that. I don't know if I've ever felt more vindicated in having a take than that night. I don't think I've ever had a moment more vindicating than that night, July 20th, 2021. I went on Twitter Spaces on the Elon app and I went ham. I said, I want all of y'all who was in my mentions to pull up to the Twitter Spaces. I want to hear the apologies in real time. Of course, they ducked the smoke, but it is what it is. But yes, like Nets World, I enjoy watching point fraud choking compilations because it is very satisfying. And just doing that game log breakdown was very satisfying. I don't know why people don't just enjoy the fallacies of the point fraud. Instead of trying to, I put up a YouTube short about the point fraud, being a point fraud, and people are like, oh, you and your feelings. I'm like, this has nothing to do with feelings. How can you, as a basketball fan, enjoy someone who is so openly dirty on the floor? What, because he smiles? Because he's got some State Farm commercials? He does a documentary on Netflix? He wears some HBCU hoodies? You think that absolves him from nut punching people from a teenager on a 4-letter network to his own mans from the Banana Boat LeBron just 2 years ago, where he tried to rip Bron's shoulder out of the socket? Couldn't be me. I never liked playing with dirty basketball players. We all, if you played ball back in the day, like how we played, like you never wanted to play against the dirty dude. You always had to be on alert. Like it made you not want to focus on the game because you're just worried about when is this guy going to try something. But somehow this CBA circumventing charlatan has made it all the way to, NBA immortality. And I'm supposed to just ignore the fact that he's been dirty for the entirety of his career? No, I refuse. He's a fraud. And if you know business acumen, and if you know union acumen, when he was the head of the NBPA, he was extremely fraudulent in that position. But anyway, Nets World got the Lakers winning tonight. Oh, they better win tonight. They don't win tonight, it's a wrap. They better win tonight. I think Darvin Ham makes the adjustments. Allegedly starting Rui Hachimura, getting him into the lineup. And I was trying to figure it out. I think when you pulled up Nets World, like, who do you take out this starting lineup? Because the problem is that Bruce Brown said, we going after D'Lo every time. We are going to hunt D'Angelo Russell. So in theory, you would think, all right, well, you put in Dennis Schroeder to go to 3 guards. Well, if you're going to put in Rui, then just take out Dennis Schroeder and put in Rui. But the problem is if Bruce Brown is airing it out, and maybe it's a smokescreen, so we'll get that caveat. But if Bruce Brown is saying, no, the game plan is to go after D'Lo, and there ain't a damn thing he or the Lakers can do about it, do you take the bait if you're Darvin Ham and bench D'Lo for Rui? And if you bench D'Lo, we know his ego is a little fragile. And it's debatable if they bring him back after this year. This is all an audition for D'Lo. I hope he don't think he's done enough to get automatically brought back. Like, this is the real audition. Yes, he played well especially after he came back from injury. He played well to help this team at certain points get to this point. But this is the real audition. This series, and if they're, fortunate enough to get past the Nuggets, for sure the finals, that's the real audition. But if D'Lo is getting ISO to death and they're hunting him, it's really, you're daring Darvin Ham to take the bait. Do you take the bait with Bruce Brown saying, as long as you have D'Lo in the game, we're hunting him? Then do you bench D'Lo? But is Bruce Brown saying that to get the Lakers to bench D'Lo because they know what D'Lo can do. It could be some mind games. It could be some Jedi mind trick shit here. But it's going to be something to pay attention to. So I don't know how much more I can give you on that. I'll check the timeline one last time before we wrap it up tonight. But let's see what we got. Oh yeah, I got to get into the Chris Broussard thing. But let me just double check the timeline real quick. Let's see. Do we have starting lineups yet? Who normally has that? I think Underdog normally has that, right? Let's see. Do they have lineups yet? No lineup information as of yet. Mo Bamba has been ruled out. That's about it. Yeah, no Laker lineup news yet, but let me just do one last check. Mo Bamba at some point will be a factor if they can last long enough. But they got to get past this series, apparently. Let's see. Oh, my light blew out. Okay. My little rim light. All right. That might be a good time to make a move to slide off the stream. All right. So I will save the Chris Broussard hot take. I'll save that for tomorrow. But we will discuss it. The Friday stream is normally a quick stream anyway, because there's very, very rarely stuff going on. But we'll at least have the Laker Warrior game to dissect, so we'll do that. But in regards to anything else, well, yeah, I'll save the Broussard thing until tomorrow, so that way I could really get into my bag with that. But appreciate y'all for pulling up. I will catch y'all tomorrow as we end off the week strong. Catch y'all at 4 p.m. Eastern, as we always do. Check out some of the content, tap in, share, like, subscribe, all that good stuff that they want people to do here on YouTube. And I will catch y'all tomorrow for another edition of Timeline T. I am your host, D. Sam D. San Duze Jr. Salute.